Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business Spotlight, the podcast where we shine a light on the incredible entrepreneurs and business leaders in our community. I'm your host, Craig Whipperman, with Music City Action Coach, and today we're excited to introduce you to someone who is blazing a trail on the field of maintenance and repair right here in Nashville. Our guest today is Eric Schell, owner of Nashville Maintenance Pros and OneTap. We'll dive into Eric's background, explore the challenges he's faced, and the successes he's celebrated. Whether you're a fellow entrepreneur, an aspiring business owner, or someone who just likes to support local businesses, this conversation is sure to inspire and inform. So without further ado, let's welcome Eric to the podcast. Eric, how you doing today?
Doing well, doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, man. Yeah, it's beautiful weather out
Good.
there, and I know the guys in the maintenance world appreciate beautiful weather outside, right?
Oh, absolutely. They're excited to get outside, do some outside jobs and such. And yeah, we're all happy about it, even the ones in the office too.
Yeah. So give us a little bit of history, man. How'd you get to where you're at? Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. A little bit of a lengthy story, so I'll try to keep it, short and concise here. But you know, just going back to, kind of like my values that were instilled from in me from a young age. My dad, he grew up on a farm.
Mhm.
So, and this farm, they also had in the early days too, there was some dairy cattle and things like that. So if anyone's familiar with that, it's early wake up, you're up at 4 a.m. and you're working all through, until the sun sets down. And he has a massive work ethic to, say the least. And with that, also my mother is an immigrant and she came over from Ecuador. So just, with those backgrounds and, having the parenting that I had, growing up, they really instilled into me, just being independent and resourceful and, using what I have to the best of my abilities. And it's kind of carried me through life. And, my father would have me out there every day, working in the yard. We lived in a subdivision, but, felt like some days we still lived on a farm or something. He had us out there every day, summer, we're always doing work, using our hands, fixing things. He wasn't the person to have someone come out, mow his lawn. We took care of all of it. But yeah, from there, I mean, in high school, I was a laborer underneath my cousin-in-law's business. And with that, I learned a ton. It was a smaller business, and I was maybe one of the third person on the team, and there's two other guys that were in the trades for 10 or 20 years, and we primarily focused on do a lot of decks. We would do some bathroom and kitchen renovations, and then towards the end, there's a lot of like home flips and kind of just top to bottom renovations that we're doing. So, that was kind of like my first insight into the business world because before then I never really knew what a business was, how it works. And I remember to this day, I went in to get my, first tools for the job. And he was with me and I go check them all out. And cashier says, okay, would you like a receipt? I'm like, no, I'll pass, you can just throw it away. He goes, well, hang on, hang on. He's going to want that receipt. It's like, that's a tax write-off. I'm like, tax write-off? What's that? And that was my first business lesson on
Yeah.
taxes 101. So yeah, really just through that experience, I just, was a sponge and just absorbed, and a lot of the things we do today, I absorbed from, just watching him and how he handled his business, things like the branding, how he talked with customers, how he talked with the employees. And yeah, it was just really, eye-opening to that world of entrepreneurship for me. Um, but yeah, I kept that mindset, and as I was, probably my fourth year there, he was like, would be a really good idea for you. He's like, you got to go to college. Go to college, get yourself a nice degree, and you can sit at a desk. You'll make $70,000 a year, and you won't have to be outside in the freezing cold. I'm originally from Michigan, so the winters we work through the winters, surprisingly enough, and we do outside work too. So there'd be, be 5 degrees out, and we'd be out, framing a deck or something. Um, So he's like, hey, nice AC, $70,000 a year, go get yourself a degree. So I listened to him, of course, and I was like, yeah, he's probably right about that. I need to get, some kind of college education. So that's exactly what I did. And I went to Belmont first in Nashville, Tennessee. I was there for about a year. I was studying audio engineering and economics. My whole premise was I wanted to build big stadium speakers and install it. So it was a little bit of mix of construction, audio engineering, and wasn't the best student. The you know the grades were struggling a little bit, especially with trying to double major in the two. So I remember sitting down with the counselor, and they're like, hey, our audio engineering course is, the toughest in America. I mean, you really should just pick one. It's going to be very difficult to double major with this. So I said, all right, if I'm going to focus on something, I'm probably going to end up going the business route. And it just made a lot more sense, cost wise to go back home. Michigan State had a, wonderful business program there. So I, you know, went through, did a community college because I had to get my grades up. So I took a little break there, did community college and just, kind of really buckled down and had that like epiphany moment, like I really wanted it for myself. And went to community college, had to get straight A's across the board, then went to Michigan State. And then what I realized is you actually had to get into the college once you go into the university, which I didn't know at the time. So then I was just again buckling down for that first year, ended up getting into their business school there for finance and graduated from it. But I knew I wanted to go back to Nashville. I love the area. I, love the growth. Um, the warmer weather was an added plus as well. So very quickly made the journey back down to Nashville, and I was working at a Fortune 500 company in a sales position. And that was the job. It was, the $70,000 a year. You're sitting behind a desk, AC, and there's that moment where I caught myself looking out the window. It was a nice summer day, 70 degrees, and there's these landscapers out there, and they're hooting and hollering, having a great time, laughing in the sun and trimming some bushes. And I was just looking out there. And I was like, man, someone came up to me right now and offered me the opportunity to go outside and work with them. I would probably end up paying them to go and swap places. And I think at that moment, that's when I kind of realized I'm like, hey, I don't think I'm built for, the office life. Someone that likes to move, do a lot of different things, use my hands. And at the time, I was also, moonlighting where I was after my 9 to 5, I would buy a home, the personal home. I'd gut it down to the studs, and then that's like my hobby and passion was just, fixing these homes back up. And then I would end up renting it out, finding another home to live in, and then renovating it while I lived in it. So I was doing that from like 5 a.m. to 2 in the morning. You have to get pretty creative when you're working that late and there's neighbors. So there was like any kind of heavy, saw cutting. I'd have to wait till the weekend and kind of plan that on the weekend side. And then, just getting creative with the tools I used during the, nights so that they wouldn't make any noise. Um, and yeah, and I was having success with that. And that moment hit me when I'm looking out the window, and I was like, I'm young enough, I'm ready to take that leap. Um, if I fail, it's, something, it's not going to be the end of the world. I can pick myself up, I can find a job. I do have that degree to lean on just in case. And ultimately, made that jump. And very quickly, that just being in that real estate community, I was getting calls left and right. Hey, my garbage disposal is out at one of my properties. Like, I know you fix up your own homes and everything. I can't get a hold of a plumber. You think you could, lend me a hand? And I was like, sure, don't worry about it, not a problem. On the house, I'll come over, I'll take care of it. And then more and more of those calls started coming. My network expanded, and next thing I know, I'm full on renovation and repair business. And that really kind of kicks off the story of building Nashville Maintenance Pros, the current business that I own and have about, I would say, 16 employees. And It started off as just myself, trying to figure out how to navigate the business world as a solo entrepreneur. Started to realize I need more people, not more money. And, started finding people in my network, usually it's your friends that brought on a part-time admin to help me with a lot of the paperwork and just kept really, trying to grow this thing and, make it something special. Um, and at the time I was doing quite a bit of, just personal coaching, business coaching as well. And it goes back to that phrase I just said. Um, I'm not exactly sure who it comes from. I know they're a business coach, so if anyone knows uh, who created the saying, definitely want to make sure credit's due. But it was, you don't need more money, you need more people. And that just kind of sat in the back of my head all the time. And I was thinking, hey, who are the people that I need to really help make this a success for me? Because, I'm new, I need some guidance as well. And it's, as I grow, I know I can't handle it all myself if I ever want to really scale the business. So with that in the back of my mind, it was, kind of a fate thing where I got a call to do a $200 doorknob repair at a house. So I head over there, bring all the tools, meet the client, and I was probably there all of 40 minutes or so. And as I'm walking out, I have this technology idea that, there's a further backstory that goes into that. But today that is OneTap, and which is the second business. But I was kind of mentioning it on the way out to the client, and she goes, that's a really good idea. It's like you should talk to my husband about that. He'd be really interested. And I'm kind of thinking like, oh yeah, sounds good, and just kind of kept on walking out, hop in my car, and 2 weeks later, I get the call from her husband, and it ends up being Mr. Joe Friedman, who is now my partner, and Courtney was the client there, and she is also a partner in the business as well. And I was sitting in the parking lot. We're doing a VA job in Murfreesboro for renovation there, and was sitting in the parking lot talking to him, and we just hit it off. We had like an hour-long phone call, similar backstories and moonlighting, starting something from nothing. And he's asking me at the time, he's like, hey, are you have you ever heard of something called EO? And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I'm actually signed up for the Catalyst program for EO. He's like, no way, I'm a president over there. I helped, grow EO and was, there during the very early stages and everything. So it was like just kind of one of those things where, we're just chatting and everything we, chatted about, we had, something in common and, very, similar paths. And it was kind of like from that moment, I was like, I really got to, sit down, talk with him more because, this could be the person that really, helps drive this business. And sure enough, we did that. The one thing he said is he's like, I'm looking to invest. I'm, just recently sold one of my businesses. And but the thing is I'm looking for something that has a technology component in it. I'm like, funny you say that. I'm actually working on something right now. And let's grab some coffee and I can show you a thing or two about it. And at that time, kind of during that same time when I went out there and was doing the doorknob repair, it's, this whole idea of one tap came to me. And what I did is I took one of my homes and I sold the home, took the profits from it to go find an app development company to start on a prototype. So this was a prototype, simply just like wireframes kind of a
Hmm.
deal. And when we grabbed coffee, Joe, Courtney, and I was able to really show what that app looked like and what my vision was for it. And at the time, like you could communicate, it was just enough to where like I could have one side of the app and I could communicate directly with him, sitting right across me at the table and
Hmm.
just explain the whole concept. And he was very excited about it. And he said, this is something I'd love to get behind. So long story short, Joe and Courtney joined a board, and it's been great. They're both wonderful mentors to me on this journey. They've, had plenty of employees, large businesses, and if there's something that I'm experiencing in my first early days of growth, I know I can, give either one of them a call, and they've experienced already. They know what to do. So it's a huge help, and I tell everyone who's also looking to grow, I'm like, hey, you don't need more money, you need more people, and you need to go out and find yourself someone like Joe, someone that really wants to, be a mentor and, see success and has had success, has been in your shoes before and can help you grow. So that's kind of high level look down, and yeah, and of course I can get into OneTap a little bit more as well.
Yeah, sure. So, how long were you, how long has renovation, or is it Nashville renovation?
Nashville, Nashville Maintenance Pros.
Nashville Maintenance Pros. How long has
Yep.
Nashville Maintenance Pros been around?
Fairly new actually.
Yeah.
So prior to that, when I was doing the home flipping, technically the business name was the Nashville Flipper. That was
Oh,
really kind of like my first business. When Joe came aboard, we did a rebrand because I wasn't doing a lot of home flipping anymore. I was doing a lot more maintenance, repairs, and renovations. So the brand, there was, an identity crisis there a little bit where, we want to focus on something that, still had a local presence to it because we are local, but focus more on the maintenance and repair side of things. So the Nashville Flipper I started, probably around 3 to 4 years ago.
wow.
And then Nashville Maintenance Pros, when we hit the ground running with that, was last year in July. So our run rate was about 200,000 last year in July. And then, not even a year, our run rate now is at around a 2 million run rate for the year. And we went from 2 employees to 16 in that time frame. So we've been, definitely growing a ton. And it's great to see. Everyone on the team sees it. People have jumped, 3, 4 positions. And just a lot of fun, growing something from nothing.
Yeah. And so, you say everybody sees it. Does that, you mean all the people you've got on staff now? Is that?
Yep, on staff now. Yeah, they're all, they see it in themselves, where I've had people who started off, as a junior tech that's had no experience in the construction space that has jumped from a junior to a senior tech to an internal project manager to an external project manager. So you're talking, 4 jumps in less than a year in positions. And yeah, it's just across the board, everyone's seeing, this growth take off and the
Okay.
success that we're having.
So what do you attribute the growth to?
Um, People,
Yeah.
it's
How-
that simple.
How's the
Yeah,
business coming in? Is it referral based? Is that how it's growing? Or are you marketing in
yeah,
a different way or?
Yeah, we have a few different ways we bring in business. A lot of it's referral. It's
Mm.
the connections that we have. We work with a lot of property management companies. We work with realtors. So we have, returning customers, which helps a ton. And, our whole, value add is, we just want to make it as easy as possible for them.
Mhm.
And whether it's a $200 job, we're going to treat that $200 job as a $20,000 job every single time. So it's just that level of care. It's the communication, which is huge, especially in this business, because it just seems like, across the board, everyone struggles with finding a good maintenance team or a good contractor that can communicate with them and let them know, hey, what's going on? When are you going to be there? And I've experienced firsthand because, if I had rentals and Airbnbs, and I've had, those frustrating moments where a vendor says they're going to be there to fix the HVAC. You promise your tenants one thing, and the next thing you know, that guy doesn't show up and just completely goes cold on you. And then you got to put the contractor cap back on and start searching for HVAC companies.
Mhm.
So I think that is like one of the things that's helped a lot is just me being on the other side of those, the table in those different positions, from being,
Yeah.
an Airbnb owner, you know, property
And-
manager, all the.
Right. And seeing where the opportunities were in service that were missing.
Mhm,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Interesting. And so, What level of so Nashville maintenance pros, is that include HVAC, plumbing, any structural issues I might
One
have?
one stop shop. Yeah, that's the
Okay, wow.
we my vision for it was like, hey, I want to make this like almost like an Amazon of maintenance, right? It's
Hmm.
stressful when you're a property manager or you're a realtor when you have to have this whole vendor list of all these different people to call. And what
Hmm.
I wanted to add the value for people is, hey, you just give us a call. We're the one-stop shop. We're going to make sure that, whatever it is, we can get it done. And, that having the business model to accommodate that is key. We
Hmm.
have hourly guys on staff. So if it's something like, pressure washing, we can have our hourly guys go out there and perform those tasks. It could be something as small as, trimming hedges. And then we can go all the way up to a full-on renovation where we also have, high quality subs that are vetted, that I've worked with for many years.
Hmm.
So we can really cover the whole basis there, which allows us to say, hey, we're the one-stop shop. I mean, it could be a small $200, you know, job you need done all the way up to a $200,000 job you need done.
Hmm. So, amongst the 16, are the 16 employees, are they all W-2, full-time employees?
For the most part, yep.
Yeah.
I think we have maybe two that are 1099. Traditionally, like when we start off, we bring a junior tech on. We typically bring them on as a 1099 first, and
Hmm.
that could last maybe a month, and then they convert over to W2, just to get a feel to understand their skill sets, where they're at. Um, but yeah, for the most part, everyone's W2. Our techs, we have about 7 to 8 techs, um, that are a mix of junior technicians to senior technicians, um, people that are, fresh out of high school and have zero experience and, are starting to learn the trades to people who have been doing it for, 30, 40 years. So it's a wide range of skill sets there. And, and then we also have office staff as well to, help dispatch those technicians to different various jobs and also, talk with the customers. And that's that, communication part that really comes in. Um, yeah,
Right. So, what skill sets do you have? I would imagine, and folks, they have to carry licenses, right? Plumbers,
correct.
electricians, and whatnot.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yep.
you
So
folks.
making sure your team that you have underneath you, so like electricians, plumbers, yeah, everyone's licensed. As far as my skill sets go, um, done a lot. I've done a ton of it. So
Hmm.
I'm usually the last call when they go through, the technicians go through everyone else, to give me a call, and I'm probably going to have the answer for them on what
Hmm.
it is. I mean, I've done everything, and been in crawl spaces, plumbing, electrical, basically taking a home from ground zero and building it all the way up.
Hmm.
So myself, I have over 10 years of experience in the field, and it's interesting because some people have 20, 30 years, but they don't know how to drywall, right? Because maybe they're just specifically in plumbing. So that's kind of like their wheelhouse, where my 10 years is full homes. So it's 10
Yeah.
years of learning all the tiny little details that make a home, and knowing what's up to code, what's not up to code. And just the experience of doing it and failing as well, and realizing like, hey, I've been there before when I did, this job a while back, or, I've been there when I've done, something else. It's all learning experience, and it comes with time and just by doing it. But that was the biggest thing when I left from Michigan. I was a laborer. Towards the end there, I was, now like kind of becoming more of a, carpenter was kind of where my specialty, if you'd call it,
Hmm.
was.
Hmm.
Um, by the time I left there and I came over to Nashville and I had to, started doing my first homes, that was a huge turning point because I had to build that confidence, right? I always had someone above me that was, swinging the hammer that I could ask questions to. But when I went out and did my first home, it was just me. It was like my
Hmm.
first time being, solo and working on this. So that was, took a lot of confidence and it helped build a lot of confidence as well. And then same thing when I started going out into the actual, the world and, starting my business and meeting with clients, that was a huge thing that I never done before is, talk to clients and work in someone else's home. It was usually my own homes. So it's building that confidence too. And, being able to articulate to them, hey, this is what needs to be done and really consulting clients and that way they can understand because a lot of people construction can be braille. I mean it's
Mhm.
difficult to understand and you just have to articulate it in a way that makes sense for people.
Right. So, having being a one-stop shop, I think that's probably I'm sure that's well received by
Hmm.
marketplace, having just one place to call. Um, I'm curious at volume when you guys are say that I mean, okay, so we're about to get into the spring and summer time,
Hmm.
right? And I know a lot of the AC guys, they gear up for this because it's spring maintenance, right? They're doing
Yeah.
preventive maintenance out there, and then once you get into the summer months, it's a lot of demand type work
Yeah,
where it's call
absolutely.
outs, and they manage their staff pretty well, but I'm curious, is it? Uh, and well, your HVAC guys, they only do HVAC or do they do other stuff as well?
So it depends. Typically, our HVAC guys, we have some HVAC and appliance technicians hourly on staff, which is nice for emergency calls. If it's not emergency
Okay.
calls, we also have, HVAC subs that we can then use to go out and, fix up different areas. So yeah, I mean, we can do larger projects where we're doing unit installs
Hmm.
to, just a no heat call, where then we can have an in-house technician go out look at it, determine what the issue is, and fix it. So
I see.
yeah, I mean, it is it's a balancing game. It gets busy, and the biggest thing is just making sure that we're looking at the calendar, making sure our techs are they have work and they're busy, and that's something that we pride ourselves in is we're hardly ever in a situation where a technician is like, oh, I don't have any work today.
Hmm.
And if we ever do get into a situation like that, where it's like, they have a job and someone, let's say, canceled on the last half of the day, they're usually like, yeah, I'm perfectly fine with no work. I'll go home early because we keep their schedules so full. And that's what from the top down. One of my projects director, his name is Matt, something he said that we, just use as a slogan around the company is, our techs don't work for us, we work for our techs. It's our job to put food on the table for them and to make sure that their schedule is full with jobs. So that's where our internals and external project managers come in, where, let's say we hit a slow season, right? They're picking up the phone and they're calling out and finding business to make sure that that calendar is full for the techs. And then if it's a time where we're getting very busy and the techs are like, hey, we're so busy, we can't hardly breathe and stuff, then it's a management issue, right? Then it's on us to make sure, hey, are we hiring enough? Are we making sure that, these guys aren't getting overwhelmed with the work that's out there?
Hmm.
So it's a yin and a yang, and it's
Right.
just just being in tune with the company and understanding where those needs are.
Yeah, yeah. And I would imagine in order for this to be a success, that's got to be something that is well oiled, right?
Yes.
And continued to be refined, right?
Hmm.
As you grow and as you evolve, because you might grow stronger in one area that would, leave some void somewhere else that you have to adjust back, and you're proactively managing that throughout the whole process, I would
But
imagine.
yeah, we're seeing a ton of it and new ideas. And like the biggest thing with me when I'm looking to hire is I never want to hire just to hire, right? I want to
Hmm.
look and find like, hey, what is our need? What are we struggling with right now? So for example, if just this past week, looking over, we have a few candidates we're interviewing right now, and I'm like, hey, what is an area that is kind of a bottleneck in the business that we could find a position for? And one of those areas is emergency calls, right?
Hmm.
So we have our internals that are handling a lot of jobs that are coming in, but these could be jobs where it's like, hey, I want, to paint the exterior of my home, in a week or two. And then all of a sudden, right in the middle of their day, they get a call that, hey, the HVAC is out at a, restaurant or something, and we need someone there ASAP today. So that person, now that internal, he's kind of got a wrench thrown in his day where he's got to pick up the phone, get someone out there, whether it's our own guy or a sub, make sure the price is good. It's an on-site approval kind of situation where they go out there and say, hey, yeah, this is what it looks like. This is how much it costs. We got to then get approval from the owner before, and then we got to source the part. So it's just a lot of moving parts that's going to really throw a wrench at someone's day. So I was like, what if we create a position in our company that is a fixed specialist, right? Where they can carve out those emergency calls. Or when he gets, an internal gets that call of, hey, it's an emergency, heat's out, or water heater's not working, it goes right to that fixed specialist. And now they can say they're just, a Swiss Army knife with it. They're trained for just those emergency calls and they handle that. So that's like an example of, hey, we have this growth, we're finding these issues, and then we're taking a deep dive and looking how can we solve this, and what position and who's the right person to put in this position to make our efficiency and get rid of those bottlenecks.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And so what area of Middle Tennessee do you cover?
I would say pretty much an hour north of Nashville. Pretty much if you draw an hour circle around Nashville, that's pretty much the area that we cover. Now we're looking to expand as well. We've been looking at jobs out in Memphis as well as like Knoxville, and definitely have plans to grow outside of that. But we certainly want to perfect what we're doing here first and
Yeah.
make sure it's good to go before we start scaling. And that's a lot of it too, is like as we're building, we're thinking about our long-term vision, to be one of the, largest, repair and renovation companies in Middle Tennessee. So that's our vision. It starts at, how we're building this and how we're structuring it. Are we able
Mhm.
to take this model and then be able to copy and paste it in another city and have it perform exactly the way it does here?
Right,
So there's a lot of steps involved with that as well, of just, systems and processes.
right, right. And not to mention, and you touched on it, hiring the right people with the right skill sets. And then, of course, yourself being, I don't know if you replicate yourself, but maybe you systematize
Finding
yourself
your number
out of it.
two.
Yeah, yeah. Or maybe
That
you systematize yourself out of it some way, right? I don't know if that's
yeah,
possible.
something Joe would always tell me is like, hey, you got to find your number two.
Yeah,
Find your
yeah.
number two.
Right, right.
And it's what I also tell everyone else in the company too. It's like,
Hmm.
hey, if we want to grow as a whole, we got to go out and find your number two.
Right.
It's someone that's going to have, the same work ethic, the same, capabilities that you can feel comfortable taking over your position,
Hmm.
to where then you can then make, a leap further.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's a lot of it. And if we expand out to another city, it's exactly that. We've also, thought of, breaking out different sections of National Maintenance Pros to where we have an HVAC or specifically a plumbing side of the business. And for that, it's myself going out there finding my number two for each and every one of those businesses, finding, a guy who's young, motivated, has some business experience, and has their own plumbing company. And, what they need is just some guidance, some advice, some, systems and processes. And I know that with just those things, this person will, grab it by the horns and, make it really something
Right,
special.
right. And that's what a good franchise is going to provide, right?
Hmm.
Something that will, allow that person not to have to invest in tweaking and figuring out systems. You've
Yep.
already got them proven. That's a good plan. So your run rates growth from 200 grand annually to 2 million. That's like well, that's an order of magnitude, right? Yeah,
Yeah, it's been a big one.
that is a big one. That's pretty in a pretty short time.
Yes. Yeah. Just from July of last year to, this year. So less than a year. And Yeah, I mean, it comes with its, pain.
Of course. Yeah.
uh, pain. And again, talking with Joe, he's like, you're gonna hit your plateaus, you're gonna go up, you're gonna hit your plateaus, and you got to break out of those plateaus. And we feel the plateaus, and it's typically it's a management thing. It's just like, hey, let's get back into the war room. Let's discuss, what we're forgetting about here as we're growing. And it's usually the little stuff
Hmm.
as you're growing. It's as simple as like, someone not locking up the shop at the end of the day. It's like, hey, these are these little things that we're starting to miss now because we're adding so many people into this business, and those little things can become very big things quickly.
Hmm.
So it's, again, it's just getting together as management. And that was also a thing that has helped me a ton, is carving out that management team within the
Yeah.
business.
Right.
Getting people in there that can see different sides of it as we're growing. I can't see everything. I can't do everything anymore. Once, you start adding on more and more employees, and just having those people with the right mindset to, and have good leadership skills to, get together and start bouncing ideas off of each other. And that's, what really helps make the most progress.
Yeah. Right. So we've talked this long and we haven't even, well, OneTap's been mentioned. You mentioned that some time ago, and
Yeah.
that's probably one of the more exciting pieces of your business, and will probably skyrocket your growth if you guys kind of come out of your testing here, that you're
Hmm.
proof of concept and what have you. Why don't you share with us a little
Yeah.
bit about what's going on with OneTap, how that came to be?
Yeah. So OneTap, it's a fun story. Um, it was an epiphany moment where I got this idea, and I've had lots of ideas in the past of cool little tool gadgets and this and that. So it all happened with, I got a call to go out to like a Payless Shoes, some kind of franchise, large box store, brick and mortar in Bellevue. And the call was to fill a small crack in the floor. So I go out to Home Depot, I grab a small tube of crack filler, and I start walking into the store. I get in there, and sure enough, there's a crack that's about 3 inches wide and goes about 500 feet from one end of the store to the other end. And I'm sitting there, I got one tube in my hand. I walk through the door and they're like staring at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, hang on here. Like, I think there was some wrong information. I got that this was just a small crack. So I was charging like $200. This is a change work order, number one. And I'm gonna have to go back, and we're gonna have to reschedule for another time. But my second question is, why has this been here for so long? There's like hair ties in it. It had to be there for like 4 or 5 years. And there's kids testing out their shoes, running up and down this crack. So big liability as well. And the manager there, she was actually the district manager that was filling in. So when she came to the store, she saw it and then placed the request. I'm like, so why wasn't this placed in the past? She's like, well, um, someone just didn't place the maintenance request, I guess. I'm like, well, how do you place a maintenance request? Well, you have to go into our backend system and you log in, and then there's these forms. You got to print the form off, fill out the form, fax it over to corporate. Corporate gets it, and then they fax it over to a national contracting brand, which then will reach out to people in Nashville area off of Google, and then here you are, and you come in. I'm like, wow, that sounds like quite a bit. And I'm like, how long does that take? Well, if it's like an emergency, 3 to 4 weeks. And if it's not an emergency, it can take even longer than that. And I'm like, this is a national brand, and it takes so long, and the systems are archaic. And I'm just thinking in my head, there's got to be an easier way. So it was one of those things where I'm just thinking about it all day. And I drive back home, and I'm laying in bed. It's like 3 a.m. And it kind of just like hits me. I'm like, want to make it as easy as like a that's easy button that you press in the store and maintenance is called. Like, how could I do that? Well, everyone's got a phone, so maybe we can create like a digital button and they can just press it and maintenance comes out. I'm thinking more and more into it, and I kind of get this idea going. And this is 3 a.m., keep in mind. I lean over to my girlfriend. I'm like, hey, I got this pretty cool idea. She's like, all right, what is it? Because she's heard all my ideas. So I, kind of mentioned the concept to her. There's a long pause of silence, and then she like leans over to me and she's like, "That's a really good idea. You really shouldn't tell anyone about that. Keep that one to yourself." And right then and there, I'm like, "This is it. I got the winner." She's heard so much of my BS ideas. This is the one. I hopped out of bed and I start getting on the computer and typing up and putting all this whiteboard stuff up and really diving into it. So the whole issue is, especially in the business world, is you have these managers and these business owners, and they're wearing the contractor cap. They have to go out whenever there's some kind of issue. The employees go up and they complain. They say, "Hey, the sink is leaking." And they have to go out and find three different people to come out. Half of them don't show for an estimate. And the one guy that shows for the estimate, the price is outrageous, and they're back to square one, and it's 3 weeks later. So the other issue too is like when you have these large, corporations that are handling, the like just subbing people out, they're just calling people off Google, and it's creating this giant game of telephone, right? The
Hmm.
issue is, hey, the toilet's leaking, and it goes through 20 different people before it gets to the guy that's actually showing up to do the work. And by the time he gets it, it just says bathroom on it. So this
Hmm.
guy has no idea what tools he needs or anything about it. So I was this guy here. What did I do? I wouldn't call all these people. I would just reach out right to the store. I'd find the store phone number, call them and say, "Hey, I got this request here. What's really going on?" "Oh, it's the toilet, this and that." Perfect. So I was like, how can I just connect A to B, the employee or the business owner or the guest with the technician, and just cut out that giant game of telephone? And that's where OneTap really became an idea. How OneTap works is it uses request tags. I actually have one right here as an example. So this would be a request tag. There's a QR code on here, which has a unique ID. So couple things with that unique ID. One is we can now precisely figure out where that issue is. So if we're in a hospital with 200 rooms, if you have that in a room and someone scans it, we get 95% of that maintenance form is comes through our database. So we know the location, any access codes that, maybe a gate code or, special instructions. We get the name of, the manager or the business owner, tenant information or employee information. We can even put in there, we can cat out the entire building and put that into our database, model and serial numbers of the appliances like fridges and like a restaurant, let's say. Um, Really anything we need. So 95% of maintenance forms already filled out when someone scans that. All we simply need to know is what's wrong, right? So the big concept was, how can we make this like employee proof or tenant proof where it's so easy, it's simply just one tap. And that's the whole concept. Someone walks up to this if there's an emergency, they scan it with their phone, and it instantly opens up a chat where they're talking with one of our fix specialists. Live chat, a real person that says, "Hey, what's your issue? Let me help you out." If it's a water leak, let's say there's a pipe that froze over and water's coming out of the ceiling, we can help mitigate that and say, "Hey, next to your water heater, there's going to be a main valve, a shut-off valve that can cut the water for now. And in 40 minutes, we'll have a technician over there to make the repair." It could be as simple as just understanding, diagnosing the issue so that we know exactly what parts we need. So that way we're not showing up and then having to reschedule and come back again to order new parts. Um, it really is eliminating the maintenance form, essentially.
Hmm.
So if you think of a big, like the 505 building downtown, you got all these apartments. It goes right on the front door of the apartment on the inside of the door above the handle. Now, whenever a tenant has an issue, they don't have to go into their login portal that they probably forgot the username and password for anyways, and try and figure out how to submit this form and wait 3 weeks for this emergency to get fixed. Now all they do is just walk up, they scan it, and they're already chatting with that live maintenance technician to come over.
Yeah.
Um, in the meantime, we have a manager side of the app. So it's kind of like, think of like an Uber driver side, in a way where you can set automatic approvals. So you could say, hey, anything under $200, I just want automatically fixed. And it's approved. Anything over $200, I want to see it come by. And if I'm the manager, let's say it's a restaurant, right? One of my employees scan it because the toilet's leaking and it's a $200 fix. I'd get that notification on there, and I see the name of what's wrong, the store location, the description of the fix, how much it's going to cost, the photos, and then also there's a tab that shows the chat. So I can see the actual conversation between my employee and that technician about what's wrong. Everything is there for me to see. And all I have to do is just approve it or not approve it. And it's as easy as one tap on my
Mhm.
side. So it's just really simplifying that huge bottleneck in the maintenance space, which is maintenance forms. They're
Yeah.
just outdated.
Yeah. Right. And you've pre-filled the database with all the information that would have gone on the form. Oh, right.
hmm
Right.
Yeah, there so many times they're just so redundant. What's your name? Here's my name.
Yeah.
What's the address?
Right.
So yeah.
Great. And so where is that product in development then?
Yep. So we did a beta phase. We launched that and we opened it up for 100 units first. We wanted to keep it, fairly small so we could just work out any kind of bugs that we'd have. That beta phase, when we launched it and opened it up, we filled all 100 units in less than 24 hours. We are currently still just, focused on that beta phase, and we're in development for the first version outside of that. Um, One of the great things with doing the beta is just getting that feedback loop, right?
Yeah.
We've launched out, the first version, and it's so many little things. We could have went out there and spent, 500,000, $1 million on this app. We were like, oh, this is it. This is everything. Let's send it out and create this massive project. And then we put it out there, and then it's something as simple as, hey, in the messages, we realize there's no timestamps on the messages, so we can't really tell, when people are, sending these conversations. Little things like that we would have completely overlooked if we never just at least got it out there. The other massive thing is the feedback, sitting down with these, business owners and restaurant owners and hearing what piques their ears when we're talking about new features. One of the big ones is having like GPS to where you can see the technician
Hmm.
arriving to your store to make the fix, right?
Hmm.
Every time I mention that to someone, they're like, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
That would be so great to have. So now instead of down here on the list of features, it moves all the way up to the top,
Yeah.
and gives us some really good insights of what people really want. Because we're building this for the customers at the end of the day.
Right.
So the beta gives us a chance to get out there, really get that, concrete information of the features and benefits they really want on this app.
Hmm. Yeah. Interesting. I'm curious. Uh, you think about an Amazon delivery that comes to your house.
hmm
They haven't necessarily adopted that yet. I don't know how hard it is to do, but they will tell you,
hmm
they'll let you know the different stages, right? It's out for delivery, or it's been
Exactly.
delivered or whatever, and that is pretty handy. But for a maintenance
Yeah,
call, that would be really insightful to have that, because you're just worried. I don't know. The maintenance folks aren't known for being on time, uh,
exactly.
or
And
showing
it's
up.
hard, like if you're at working as well, and you gotta, take your lunch to come back and meet the maintenance person. You want to make sure it's timed up well. So we already use that system with Nashville Maintenance Pros. So
Hmm.
there's a third party, so we could use like APIs and bring those third parties into the app. But very similar to Uber, right? Like you can see,
Yeah,
the
right.
car coming to meet you. Same thing with the technician. You can see them coming in real time. You can have conversations with them in real time. And it's really thinking of it as like OneTap is like an Uber for commercial maintenance and repairs,
Yeah,
and really focusing on that area.
yeah, that's fantastic. So when do you guys anticipate rolling it out live?
I would say in the next 30 to 60 days.
Okay.
The biggest thing right now is our focus is it's a beta, right? So there's a lot of manual processes. When we bring someone on, we have an actual physical database that we have to manually enter, people in and give them these permissions for the app. we want to do one of two things. We want to automate the sign up process. So
Mhm.
that way, anyone in the United States can sign up for OneTap. And then that goes hand in hand with billing as well, having billing all within the app so that, someone's out in California and they want to order more request tags, they can do that all within the app. We ship it out, and it's really taking that, manual, labor intensive portion out of it and automating it. So once we really tackle those two things, we can launch it and, theoretically we can go nationwide with it.
And so how would the back end work? I would imagine here in Nashville, you guys, Nashville maintenance
Mhm.
pros, would be dispatched, right?
Correct.
How would it work across the country outside of your reach?
Yeah, so this is built for scale. And we're starting it from, day one, anticipating building this for scale. We
Mhm.
build it for scale. That gives you the ability to, achieve instant maintenance because you have a wide net. So it's going to work similar to like a, Uber Airbnb model where we'll have different vendors that come onto the platform. We have our internal team, like our internals or fix specialists, that will be reaching out and creating these relationships with these vendors in these different cities. They will be rated. So someone falls underneath 4.7 stars on the ratings, they're off the platform.
Mhm.
Um, so we want to make sure that we have a high quality of vendors that are on, and that goes hand in hand, which really separates us from a lot of the current competition out there. Um, so currently, if you look at our competitors, it's going to be a Thumbtack, it's going to be an Angie's List. A lot of those, different matchmaking platforms for, residential homeowners and, handyman construction companies.
Mhm.
The issue there is, and I see it all the time because I talk to all these other business owners in the space in construction, is um, they don't set the prices. It's basically a competition for the low cost provider. So if
Mhm.
I'm on Thumbtack, let's say I'm competing, like me as a business, right? We have great pride in our work, great communication, everything. Our prices reflect that. I mean, we're not the most expensive out there, but we're not the, cheapest out there either. But we go on to Thumbtack, we're now competing with a guy in a truck that will, work for, $10 an hour kind of a deal. So
Mhm.
that makes us stay away from that kind of a platform because we don't want to compete with low cost providers. So the
Mhm.
biggest thing with OneTap is making sure, like, hey, we need to have the best of the best vendors on this platform. When they come out to service a business, they're going to fix it right the first time. There's not going to be callbacks. There's not going to be issues. We want the best on here.
Mhm.
So what we do is we set the price. We set the price based on using AI with market data to understand what that job issue is, creating that market price, and then we send that out to the vendors. So if I'm a vendor on the platform, traditionally with these other sites, I have to pay money to get a lead. And then that lead may not even come through because they don't understand the cost of it. We've had times where we paid money to, have a lead for like a roofing job or something. And they're like, yeah, I thought you guys could do it for $20 an hour. I'm like, we're on a roof, or electrician they want for $20 an hour. I'm like, the average electrician costs over $100 an hour. Like that's just
Mhm.
not realistic. And then we lose out. With OneTap, these vendors get the job. They know it's already been approved. So the business is there. They know the price amount for it as well. So they can see like, hey, this is a reasonable price that is a market rate for this job. I want to do this job. All I have to do is hit accept, and the job is mine. I don't have to, pay money for a lead that I'm not sure I'm gonna even get. I know this is already vetted and it's approved, and they want to do the work. So that helps build your vendor list with great vendors. And I think that is a number one key for scaling this is you are what your team is and what your vendors are.
Yeah, no questions. Just like what you were talking about earlier here in Nashville with your teams, kind of proactively managing your techs and their techs time and keeping their plate
Right.
full. It's equal amount, if not more, really, in proactively managing and staying in tune with the quality of work
Right.
that your vendor partners will be providing, right? It's
Yeah. And that's one of the things, like we with OneTap, we were already doing OneTap within Nashville Maintenance Pros.
Mhm.
And we still are. It's the same business model of, hey, providing, that one-stop shop, providing that clear communication. We're able to text with the tenants and, different vendors, and they can see us, coming up to the job site. So one thing was when I first went to this app development company, they said, you're like the only person has ever come to us to make an app that actually has the business model first for this. And now you're building the app. Everyone just wants to, build the next Uber or the Airbnb, and they just come to us and they just want to build an app to build an app. They're like, this is the first time, like, you really actually have the whole business model, you put it into action, you see that it works, and now you're building the app.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's kind of the whole like premise around the developing the app in OneTap. Where we're not just creating something brand new; it's taking a lot of those fundamentals from Nashville Maintenance Pros and why we've had success over there.
yeah.
And
That
yeah,
that that reminds me of a business that wants to automate a process that they don't even have
Mhm.
documented to be done manually. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Yep. It's hard to do something like that. And it's hard to know if it's going to be successful if we haven't even, tested it and see that, hey, this is what people actually want
Right.
in the first place.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on that, man. You said 30 to 60 days before you roll it out live?
30 to 60 days. Yep. We're right
Hmm.
now we're on the next sprint, which is for the billing. First sprint after the beta was, working through some of the bugs and just, fine tuning some odds and ends. And then
Hmm.
this next sprint we're in, this is for the actual automated sign up process and the billing all to be within the app to then really be able to launch it and, essentially go nationwide with it.
Yeah, cool. So, if I were a property owner and wanted to
Hmm.
check out OneTap, is there a way for me to go just learn about it online?
Absolutely. We got a website. It's www.onetapmaintenance.com. And then on the App Store as well, it's One Tap Maintenance. You just search that, it'll pop up as well. And then we have links on our website to the app as well and everything. And then, of course, our phone numbers are on there. So if anyone wants to call to learn more information, sit down, grab coffee, talk about it. I mean, I just love sitting down with people, talking about it, getting
Hmm.
different, objections to it, hearing about, hey, this would be a cool feature if you all did this. And it's just that's where the magic happens. That's where the ideas come from, is those conversations over coffee. So
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And so, do you guys have I would imagine you've got an office that you're all working out of. Is that right?
true startup fashion. It looks like something out of a startup movie.
Yeah.
It's we're right off of Fessler's Lane, Polk Avenue.
Okay.
It's this really unique concept actually. They're called Flex Etc. They're a startup from I believe they're out in LA is where the startup was. It's like a WeWork, but for like flex spaces. So you have these different garages that you can have like storage. So if I own like a clothing store, um, or like I make shirts and t-shirts and all that, I can rent out one of those units, do all my work in there, keep all my materials in there. But on the front side of the building, there is, conference rooms and tables and whole
Hmm.
kitchenette area. And yeah, so it's really neat. What we did is we took one of the garage spaces, we built up a wall, made one side the shop and the other side the office. And yeah, we got a bunch of stand-up desks in there, and it's a really cool environment. And I'm telling you, like it looks like something out of a movie for a startup. It's what you would envision. So we got whiteboards up there, drawing on this. We got the wall. We put drywall on it, right? We didn't finish it because it's like a temporary wall. We'll take our markers and just write right on the wall, kind of deal.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So, Nashville Maintenance Pros is managed out of there too. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Hmm.
Cool, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, man, it's been great having you on the podcast here and learning more about, gosh, your history, where you've
Hmm.
been, and what you're in the middle of, how you got to where you're in the middle of it, and where you're headed.
Yeah.
I wish you the best of luck, man. You guys are. It's pretty exciting, to
Yeah.
be an observer here. I'd love to come down and visit your place there,
Yeah, yeah,
That'd be fun.
it's a great environment, and yeah, and thank you for having me. I hope I could, there's a lot of people right now that are starting their businesses, and hopefully I could give some insight. I'm probably a year or two into this journey, so for those that are out there that are, you know, hey, I'm interested in starting my own thing and, getting ready to take that leap. Hopefully I could provide some good insights. And then also, if anyone wants to chat over coffee, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm always willing to, lend some advice and just chit chat and meet new people, share ideas. Yeah.
That's fantastic, Eric. Eric Schell, Nashville Maintenance Pros and OneTap, man. Thanks for being a guest.
Thank you, Craig.
All right.
Appreciate it.
We'll see you.
See you later.